Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh! Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
It has already been a bit of a day in the greater Kansas City metro area. Hope you're staying safe and dry out there as we get things going on a little Tuesdays with Sterling. I'm not Sterling Holmes. I'm Joshua Brisco, but nobody keeps you dry like Sterling Holmes does. Stu, thought we might be without you for a portion of today's episode. I am assuming that at some point during today's show, there's a 50-50 chance I'll lose power and be absolutely blinked out of existence. But right now, the house is standing, the power's on. Hopefully, again, everybody out there is safe, as there were a lot of tornado sirens, a lot of tornado warnings. But as far as I can tell, you're looking good, Stu.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I was shocked by that. I was driving home from the radio station. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, not great, not great. A lot of cars around me. I would like to get home. Why is it when sirens go off, people decide, hey, what if we just stopped and looked around?
Yeah.
Like, just drive. Wait, that's the worst thing you could do is just stop and look around. Just drive.
Once you're mobile, be mobile.
Be mobile. Like, what do you think stopping and looking around is going to do?
It's going to slow everybody up behind you. It's going to cause a problem. This happened somewhere else in the country like a week or two ago, but you got like 4 people who just stop under an overpass, and then everybody behind them is just in the elements. I'm glad you and your Subaru were safe, but a lot of people are now stuck in the road. So no, you're absolutely right there. I of course did want to take the opportunity to hear sirens and to go out on my front porch and put my hands on my hips and look around and survey everything and then tell Renee, this doesn't look too bad. I don't think we have anything to worry about here. But that's once I'm home, not on the road.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my wife updated. She's downtown right now. And so I'm just letting her know everything that is happening. The happenings that are in the storm world right now. It looks like a lot of it's more towards independence is what I've somewhat seen.
This is already unfair because Richard is already, holding this show together like, just like Spider-Man holding back the train from crashing off the bridge. But maybe the future for this show today should have been like a live weather map on screen, and then you and I just do our best Gary Lezak, our best Jim Cantori for 45 minutes, and then your wife could just watch the show to stay updated. We could be really writing it down. You could be showing your home address and her place of work, and just, it's okay that other people are going to know where you live now. This is for the greater good. It's a public service we're offering.
Yeah, we should get a green screen behind me, and I'll just start
I have
pointing
one downstairs.
things.
I can go get that. I have to dig it out, but we could definitely. I would love to do some weather green screen work.
All right, what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk some Chiefs, talk some OTAs, talk to Adam Teicher again today. Got some insights from him. Before we do all that, though, it's still MLB season, y'all. We're talking baseball. Yeah, we're talking baseball. So you can go yard all baseball season long with Underdog's Pick'em game. Underdog is a leading place to make all your sports picks, and you can now play in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Super easy. All you have to do to play, download the app, and choose whether a play will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You choose from things like home runs, strikeouts, total bases, and so much more. Playing, it's like a can of corn, baby, right there on Underdog. Once your picks feel good, you can win up to 1,000 times your money with just as little as $1. So if you get up everything right, you could win again up to 1,000 times your money. It's just that simple right there on Underdog. All right. I like Underdog. Love Underdog. Heading to the Royals game Thursday in St. Louis. So if the rain holds off, going to see Cags. And I'll be using Underdog out there in the old STL. So I'll be out there rocking some Underdog. You better believe I'm ripping some things higher on anything Jack Caglione.
We got to get Cags up there by then, right? I mean, we have to assume.
He got called up already, Brisco.
I meant Underdog. Sorry, I knew that Cags was a major leaguer. Now I meant that I don't know if Underdog is fully aware of the impact of jacking off, which is what you and the Rose are going to be doing on Thursday in St. Louis.
Yeah, on Thursday. So if you want to join Underdog, download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code Arrowhead Addict to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code Arrowhead Addict. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts, in Arizona, and President State where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP 253342. In New York, call 24/7-HOPE-LINE at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
8.7. Strong effort. Not special effort. Strong effort, though. I mean, that's
I haven't had lunch yet. I've been busy. I've been trying to
I can hear it in your voice.
Hit by storms.
Yeah.
I'm a hungry man, but I don't want pizza in the word of Alice Cooper. But we're not talking music. We're talking sports. We're talking fun. OTAs.
That's the most anyone's ever believed, that we're talking fun. Hey, listen, everybody. We're not talking music. We're not talking food. We're not talking fashion. We're talking fun.
Trying to keep my wife updated. I haven't ate yet. We got tornadoes everywhere.
No, you're completely in the right. Look, here's the thing. You want me to kill a minute off the top here before we have to get into a new topic?
Love it.
This is not a complaint in any way whatsoever, because in many ways this is my favorite time to do stuff, especially when you're doing hashtag content with people you truly like. And I hate to say this in front of his face, but Sterling Holmes fits that bill. My friend Seth Kaiser, Nate Taylor fit that bill. When you end up, though, in these days in late May, early June, or really just on days when you're just too tired, you're keeping your wife updated about a big storm that's too close to your house, you did a bunch of radio, you haven't had lunch yet. You know what they say in showbiz? The show must go on. And there are some days when you don't have to say that. Some days the show just happens. The show just goes on. The show, you got a big signing, you got a draft pick, you got a game to talk about. The show just happens. It's great. It flows freely, and there's a show. But then some days the show must go on. And today's one of those days. And I think it's okay to admit when you're one of those days, because you know what's going to happen? The show's going to go on. We're here. We're doing show. My power's on. You made it home. But this is one of those days. And I think it's beautiful to acknowledge that, because it makes what Sterling Holmes is doing right now even more impressive. You know what he's playing through. You know, respect this performance. Witness.
Gruden grinder.
Witness this Gruden grinder.
OTAs, standouts. All right, let's get into it. Okay. I was talking to Adam Teicher today. Yes, he's still with ESPN. I know a lot of people have had that thought. He's heading back to KC right now. He was moving to Colorado, heading back to KC tomorrow just for some OTA stuff. Wants to get around it. This is his last year. He's already done with the season. He's just doing OTAs for the love of the game.
I believe his official exit will precede training camp. There's no way they're sending that man back to St. Joe.
Yeah. And what we were talking about more than anything was the running back room. Him and I have been on the same page for a while now in regards to this. I'm glad we got his thoughts on this, because we both think Pacheco's probably the guy getting the first carry start of the season. But we also wouldn't be shocked, I guess maybe not see if he didn't make the team, but we're sitting here like, what does he do better than the other three guys? We don't know the clearest path for Pacheco to get the majority of the snaps, the carries. We talked about how Elijah Mitchell might be the best one-cut ability, even though the 40 times don't show it as far as explosiveness in pads.
And in theory, in fairness,
is Elijah Mitchell. You've seen Kareem Hunt be great in short yardage situations with the vision. Rashard Smith is the best pass catcher, but Kareem Hunt might be the best third down back. what does Pacheco do better than the other three guys? We said he might just be the innings eater. If you want a baseball term, he's just a guy on first and second down. He can give you the most touches, but are they the most efficient touches? And then we also wanted to point out, are we being unfair to Isaiah Pacheco? When guys come back early, we use that as an advantage. We say, look at this guy. He came back early. He grinded through this. Look at what Jalen Watson played through, all of this stuff. Yet, when Isaiah Pacheco came back early and looked bad, we use it against him. If his final game of the season was the 19-carry, 90-yard game against the Bengals, would we be sitting here saying, well, we can't wait to get Isaiah Pacheco back? He's the lead guy. But because we saw him post-injury and he came back early, we're left saying, yeah, I don't know what he does. He might not be good anymore. He might be washed. Taisha and I were on the same page of that might be unfair, yet that is what we last saw. It's hard to put that out of your mind.
Yeah, I feel great about this because I said that on this show last week. And look at how far we've all come now. I think that is what's happened to Pacheco is that we overrated him on some level. And by we, I mean, I don't really feel like I did, honestly. But I feel like he was the number one running back on the best team in football. And that really raised his profile in a pretty big way. So you saw him getting on those like fringe top 10, top 15 running back type of things, which I think was always not quite where he was as a player. Then he does overwhelm and overcome his injury to get back late season, and he doesn't look like the same guy that he was in years prior or in even the first couple of games of the season before that injury came down. So now you're comparing an idealized Isaiah Pacheco that never really exists, who's a top 10 running back from, right after he took a grown man's job. And you're measuring that idealized Isaiah Pacheco against the worst version of him we've seen in the pros, a guy that was like fresh off of a physical recovery of a broken bone in his leg and his ankle. I mean, this is a tried and true path that we do all the time. So, again, we talked about that a lot last week, obviously, and did our whole little like Pacheco roundabout. But I think the innings eater thing is a pretty good way to put it, because I don't know that Isaiah Pacheco has the highest ceiling on first, second, or third down in this offense amongst these running backs. But I do think he can do pretty much all of it at a passable level. And last year, the Chiefs really struggled to meet passable levels at a lot of times. Kareem Hunt came in like a hero for getting this team to passable levels, for resetting the floor of that running back room that otherwise was in a really, really rough place. So I think Pacheco I think he's most likely your starter in week 1. It wouldn't really surprise me if we're not talking a ton about like a running back battle in training camp where Pacheco's your main guy, and then you want Rashard Smith to take on to his role. Elijah Mitchell is the guy who maybe could go either direction, where he has a higher ceiling of explosion and some downfield threat speed that we've seen. It's been a minute, but we've seen it in very small bursts. Can he stay healthy and do that? Then that's a new weapon in the offense, and you could be thrilled for that future. I'm pretty optimistic about Rashard Smith, but he's a rookie who was playing wide receiver 2 years ago, right? There are a lot of question marks. There are a lot of asterisks in clauses. Kareem Hunt might be the best third down back, but if he loses another half step this offseason, he's not an NFL football player anymore. Like he is right on that line of a guy who you want to see on the field on third down and a guy who cannot get on the field. And that floor drops out for running backs around this age all the time. It's kind of a miracle that Kareem Hunt didn't already hit that point. He was on the couch when the Chiefs called him. So I think Pacheco gives you a decent floor in a lot of places that makes him a useful player. I'm not arguing he's Saquon Barkley. I don't think he's a top 10, top 15 running back in this league, but I think he's useful, and that the rest of this running back room has upside, but also downside. So I think Pacheco's spot in it's pretty safe.
So I was at the Big Slick on Saturday. I want to give a huge shout out to Children's Mercy Hospital. Raised over $4.5 million. $4.5 million raised. Great cause. Extremely cool. Do it every year. I help my mom out with the auction. Always a really, really fun time. Again, also for a great cause.
I did think it was weird that the Kelsey brothers chose that moment to reveal their third smaller brother, Stu. I thought Stu Kelsey making an appearance was a bit of a surprise, but
yeah, I would say we could get Richard to pull it up, but I feel like that's way too much work for Richard. So we won't do it. It was a picture of Travis and Jason.
I'll flash it up from my phone at least, man. It's like I got you.
And myself. And it was example number one of why I'm not in the NFL. Very large human beings, Jason and Travis, shockingly. But I did want to point out, yeah, there we go. Yeah, get a nice close up.
I'll get the focus while you keep talking.
But what was cool about it is, one, they're great people. Two, Travis looks like he's lost a little bit of the weight. Travis talked about how he wanted to lose how much, 20 pounds, 25 pounds. Like he was trying to really cut back, and Travis looked svelte. I mean, you can even tell in his face, you can tell he looks rejuvenated. Now, of course, this is the off season, best time of your life season. I get that. But Travis looked in shape. And another thing, I love how great of guys those guys are. It was hilarious. I was going up to say hi to them, and they wanted to talk to me for a while. We eventually we got kicked off stage. It closed. The security guys were like, "Hey guys, we got to go. We have to get off the stage." And I'm like,
and then you look at the security guy and you said, "Do you know who I am?"
Not me, but do you know who these guys are?
Oh.
Very nice. Just talking to Travis about the Chiefs and Tahoe and just all this different stuff. And I talked to Jason about the Eagles and all that. They're very, very nice people. And it's great to see that it's not an act. It's not a skit or a bit. It's who these people are. And I think a little bit behind the curtain right there I think Chiefs fans like to see that at least. So, thought that was kind of cool. My wife has called me really quickly, so I'll let you take over for a second here, Brisco.
Oh, let's go. I'm going to talk about the wide receivers then. Get this bum out of here. You know who I didn't hang out with this week? Jason or Travis Kelce. But I did put some thought into the wide receiver room. I don't think we've talked about this guy very much on this show. And this kind of works into the OTA standouts and some of the names that we've heard about quite a bit recently. But undrafted free agent wide receiver Elijah Badger has been kind of the UDFA darling of that pass catching group. And among other things, and among other guys, Patrick Mahomes during OTAs talked about Tyquan Thornton. Not a lot. He mentioned him amongst the speedsters, right? And that's true. He's a fast player who may or may not ever see an active roster snap for the Chiefs. That's an important context to all of this, is that just a whole bunch of these guys may never be impactful. I'm not even sure, just for comparison here, this isn't really about this player, but I'm not sure how much of a role Jalen Royals is going to have as a Chief this year. And he was a 4th round pick who, like, the Chiefs obviously invested in. I don't know if he's going to play. I assume he's not going to play much early in the year. Maybe he will in the back half. Maybe he will years down the road. All of this is looking into the future. I understand. But the thing about the wide receiver room that I do find interesting right now is that there is space for somebody. Not a lot of space, and maybe not even space for 2 somebodies, but there's definitely room for somebody to take that sort of final spot for a developmental role, a developmental pass catcher who probably has to help out on special teams. And I think Sky Moore's that guy. As Sterling said just a second ago, I think Sky Moore breakout year.
Don't. Not even as a bit. Not even a joke.
No, Sterling just put his headphones back on. Things all well there. Are you? Yeah,
she's trying to get home where it's not flooded, so she's trying to figure out. And so I was trying to help there.
Okay, very good. I was introducing this wide receiver conversation because I think we got a little bit of Elijah Badger hype as an undrafted free agent, and Tyquan Thornton got mentioned amongst the speedsters when Mahomes talked about him. Your eye rolls are underlining what I've said already of, like, look, I'm not really willing to say that Jalen Royals is going to have a huge year as a rookie. Like, we are talking about going uphill regardless, especially when you're starting lower on the totem pole. But I do think there is room for somebody, maybe not 2 somebodies, but I think there is going to be an active roster spot, most likely taken by someone who was not on this roster last year. And that was the thesis statement that I was warming up to now, because you have Rashee Rice, who may or may not have an active roster spot week 1. It seems like physically he'll be there. We'll see if a suspension comes through, putting a pin in it, but I'm not hedging my take on that directly. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Royals. I think those 5 guys are as safe as you're going to get, barring maybe like an injury thing or something weird with Juju. I guess it's kind of maybe he's your 5th of 5. But if those are your 5 and you've got Royals on special teams, you would like to get some more special teams juice out of whoever your next guy is. That's not Justin Ross, and maybe the Chiefs think there's a little bit of hope left there, but I think it's kind of the Justin Ross space that I'm putting on the market here for one of these guys to take. If Elijah Badger can be an outside wide receiver for you, even in the future, I don't mean week 1, and I probably don't mean week 14, but if he's a guy who could take some outside MVS snaps, he doesn't quite have that speed, but some MVS style snaps, even Justin Watson style snaps on an undrafted rookie contract in the future, that's useful. If Tyquan Thornton can be that guy who has just a smidge of NFL experience, and I don't mean that he's Jerry Rice, but like this isn't his first training camp, so I think there's something to be said there. He did spend last season, the end of last season, second half, on the practice squad and with the team in the back act of the year there, so he got a little bit of a head start. I do think there's a chance one of those guys hops in, and I think all of the special teams juice that the Chiefs got from Brashard Smith and Jalen Royals and even like Noel Williams, I think a lot of those picks make Nico Remigio's spot more in jeopardy than you might have thought it was before the draft. I think he's on this team's practice squad, or he's Amir Smith-Marset and somebody else, remember a couple years ago, and somebody else says, we have a role for that guy. Maybe Nico straight up wins a spot, but that's the one I'm looking at. And if Rice does get suspended, or if the Chiefs even try to play some numbers games at the start of the year, you're going from 6 receivers to 7. And that means it could be Nico and Thornton, or Thornton and Badger, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's the spot. I think the first 5, including Juju, are fairly locked.
It'd be hard for me to see Juju not making the team because he's had a year of just like not really being able to play football. I think it's very, very unlikely.
Well, and the fact is he brings something different, including the best blocking wide receiver on the team.
It'd have to be physical.
And he's the depth piece. I don't know if, especially early in the year, they're saying, yeah, we'll trust Royals as that first depth piece. I think it's going to be Juju.
Yeah.
It does help that Royals can play special teams, hopefully, right? Especially early on.
Yep.
But there's only going to be 6 wide receivers. This isn't a 7 season. Because
that's probably true, because you're probably there at tight end. I'm not giving him a fullback flex spot this year as of right now, though. But you're probably right. Or it's 7 if Rice does not have a roster spot the first 4.
Yeah, there's always going to be extenuating circumstances, but there's going to be probably 10 offensive linemen, 4 running backs, 3 active on game day, probably 4 tight ends, 3 active on game day. And you're going to have 6 wide receivers. 7 just doesn't make any sense because that wide receiver 6, let alone 5, hardly even sees the field. And that last wide receiver is a special teamer. So something to keep in mind there. I like your Nico Remigio thought process. He does feel a little Amir Smith-Marset, as much as we've talked about how good he looks without pads. And it feels like every time he makes these crazy catches, and we all want to see more. I'm in the same boat. But it was interesting even talking with like Adam Teicher. He goes, sometimes those diving catches, they look great and all, but it's because he's not getting there when he needs to be there. He talked about how at one point, I think it was Thornton and Remigio were in the same route, same throw from Patrick. Thornton caught it in stride, and it would have been a touchdown. Nico Remigio made a diving catch. Great catch.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's almost, we equated it to baseball, where it's like Pete Crow Armstrong for the Cubs gets there, and he doesn't make any of these sliding catches because he doesn't need to dive, because his jump's so good. But then you'll see a guy have a diving catch. You're like, oh, that looks great. Wow, he took -8 feet expected at, like he went back. Yeah. What happened here? Yeah. So that's a little bit of what I think we were getting at. While sometimes Nico looks really good, the team understands where his value is. There was a reason why he wasn't getting a lot of run last year when they needed some wide receiver help. Yep. That's what I was getting. That's what seeming like it was alluded to me. Thornton is still interesting, but I think you're right. Even Badger, I think that wide receiver 6 spot, there's a lot of names for one spot. Who's going to come up with it? Does feel like special teams could be the deciding factor, but I also keep going back to they drafted a lot of guys who might be special teams dudes, especially early on. They have Jack Conklin, they have Noel Williams, they brought back Najee Johnson in a special teams role. They spend money that in those special team spots. Jeffrey Bassa, I think, is going to be a special teamer. There's a lot of different guys, so we'll see. I think that wide receiver 6 spot's probably the spot I think might be that, and running back is the most intriguing. Offensive line's only intriguing in the sense that We all assume it's Caliendo Kingsley at left guard.
I was surprised that we all assumed something I didn't assume. That was shocking.
But if Caliendo looks good, if Hunter Orzad looks good, left guard's interesting, left tackle's interesting. If Josh Simmons is fully healthy again, we've kind of gotten, I feel like, I don't want to say mixed reports, but it does feel like Andy's more enthusiastic than Brett Veach was even after the draft. So we'll see.
It's also you're getting to like a real key part of the wide receiver interest. Offensive line is way more air quotes interesting if the question is who is your starting lineup.
Yeah.
Wide receivers more interesting, air quotes interesting, if your question is who gets the last spot. And in a lot of ways, this kind of goes full circle. The show must go on. In a lot of ways, the horse race for the final roster spot thing very rarely matters in December. Sometimes it does, but it's quite rare. Like, and this wasn't even a bad thing. I think we like stories and we like to talk about things that are happening, and you and me, but also everyone. So the guy I'm about to mention here and slightly slander. It was a good thing at the time, but you didn't hear about Carson Steele in December. And that was when the starting running back on this team was seriously injured and missed a huge chunk of the season. Generic Prince was kind of an interesting little camp battle name, but we talked a lot about the bottom of that running back room, and then they just signed Samaje Perine. And then, okay, well, that makes sense. And then Isaiah Pacheco got hurt, and then they just signed Kareem Hunt. No one in that running back room last year during training camp, none of them overachieved. Like none of those guys exceeded hope or even met most of their expectations. So that's the scale for all of this. I don't know if there are a whole bunch of great examples, because you look at the top side of the depth chart and you see a lot of first, second, third round picks. You get an occasional, Trey Smith, obviously, but again, we use him because he's a total outlier in terms of like even why he was available in the 6th round when he was. You've got success stories. Don't hear me poo-pooing everybody not drafted in the first 2 days, but Justin Ross never became the Chiefs' outside, even red zone jump ball threat that was like kind of his upside scenario. Elijah Badger probably won't be either. Tyquan Thornton, a higher draft pick. Where was he drafted? I don't remember. I don't think he was.
John Ross was a top 10 pick.
Yes. But like Thornton is even a little bit of a different entry point. I think he was a 2nd rounder. Different entry point, but now he's buried down there on the depth chart. It's very unlikely that Tyquan Thornton is going to end up catching a touchdown in the Super Bowl that, a toe drag swag in the corner. But these are also largely the conversations being had at training camp, the conversations being had at Arrowhead, as you're trying to figure out 1 through 45 is pretty much set right now. Maybe that, Sterling, maybe that's a bit we could do sometime in the next month of like how many roster spots are stone cold locks, how many of them are fridge cold locks, and how many spots are available. Because I would be actually curious to figure out what our number would be in mid-June or whatever. And it's going to make you feel like kind of silly, not you, but it's going to make everyone feel kind of silly about like how much roster math we do, when I really think there might be, it's more than 5, less than 10 spots, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. Defensively, and by the way, for OTAs especially, training camp's a little different for offensive line, but that's why I put it kind of tertiary behind running back and wide receiver. Without pads, you can't see anything outside of who's getting first team reps. Right? You're just standing there, so tough to really get a feel. Defensively, I think the interesting one for me is what Noel Williams looks like, because I'm high on him coming out of college. I think Noel Williams could be a stud, maybe not this year, just because of how the Chiefs defensive back and is so deep. I'm intrigued to see where Chamari Connor lines up. That's more or less what it comes down to on the defense. Is I want to see what these guys line up. Is Chamari Connor in the slot again, or is he safety?
Better not be.
I hope he's safety. Is Trent McDuffie outside or inside? Is Omar and Omar in the lot rolling with the first team, or is it Tillery? Or is it Mike Pennell? I think it'd be Tillery, but
I think Tillery might be running with the twos next to Marlon Tuipulotu. I mean, I think Omar Norman Lott is running with the threes to start. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just thinking about the rotations right now.
It's tough.
Because we're not talking about, I mean, like in a typical rundown, it's not going to, I mean, it will be plenty of times, I think, but I don't think plan A on 1st and 10 is Jones and Tillery. I think it's Jones and Pennell. And then your next rotation there is Tillery and Tuipulotu. And then your next rotation is Omar Norman Lott and Fabian Lovett. I let you hold for tension there.
I like it.
There's a lot of flexibility throughout all of that, obviously. Like and also Mike Dana and Charles Amina, who are kicking inside, and Spags is going to keep that nice and messy, but probably not in OTAs. Some of that stuff we're excited to see in September. You don't get to see it yet.
I did ask Adam Teicher who would be the best value for the Chiefs, best player for the Chiefs in their Chiefs career, who's a rookie this year, of course, not named Josh Simmons. Because he thought...
Run that question by me again.
So which Chiefs rookie has the best Chiefs career, not named Josh Simmons? And he went to Ashton Gelati. And I said, one, I could see it. And two, I hope so. Because, again, not named Josh Simmons because left tackle. Outside of Karlaftis.
Most impactful? I said like value is part of it?
Nah, just best player, basically. Okay. Just the overall. Who's under contract? They need to resign Karlaftis. Charles Amina is on a 1-year deal. FAU hasn't shown anything. Mike Dana's on the last year, most likely, of his deal. Oh, man. It'd be great if Ashton Gelati stood up because either he's replacing Karlaftis or he's going to be with Karlaftis. The Chiefs need an edge rusher to hit. Karlaftis has been. That's been great. I'm excited for this year. I think this year at edge, defensive line, I'm overall pretty darn excited. But they need Gelati to hit because FAU has not. Now, maybe FAU is just a late bloomer, which was part of the thought process on drafting him because he was so darn young. We knew it was more developmental than just a plug and play. We have seen glimpses from FAU. I hope he works out, but I think that's going to be more of the outlier than the norm of him being like, oh my gosh, wow, okay, yep, this is exactly who we thought he was. He is now a stud. I feel like you might be fooling yourself a little bit or talking yourself into that. Ashton Gelati, whether we want to believe it or not, a lot rides on what he does because for the future, he is a vital part of this Chiefs defensive line.
Yeah, no, I think that might be the best case answer. I mean, I guess if Omar Norman Lott, who obviously went a couple picks ahead of him, if Norman Lott ended up being that guy, you'd also be tickled to have an interior pass rusher who would help solve some of those problems. I can make a somewhat similar case to be like, yeah, it's, what you just said, but it's that they don't have another interior defensive tackle, another interior pass rusher under contract under the age of 30, right? Like beyond this year. It's Tillery is a 1-year stopgap, and obviously Chris Jones is still elite at his job, but he's going to be another year older and going to continue getting a year older as time continues because that's how aging works. So I think either of those guys would be great. I see it a lot better with Gelati personally in terms of like the mold that he fits and the type of stuff I think they could get out of him in Kansas City. I very much see the idea that Noel Williams just like is something resembling the best of Jalen Watson in terms of like star level or performance level, where he's that guy for multiple years. That would make him a lot of money, but it would never make him Trent McDuffie, right? So like that's still kind of a weird needle to thread, and I don't think that's a fair expectation. I think that's a fair best case scenario for Noel Williams. But I'm not going to predict that it's a 4th round receiver or a 5th round linebacker. And the reason that the draft slot thing doesn't move me as much with Brashard Smith, as I told you, we talked about this weeks ago. I mean, I think he might have the biggest impact as a rookie because I think his path to playing time is quicker. And I think you see that transition from the college to NFL level working pretty well for young runners at a decent clip. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco did it for a while in his rookie season. I think Gelati's probably the right answer. I think being Spags and merit pilled could get you to Noel Williams hitting his like top 10% of outcomes. But I think Spags and Joe Cullen and George Karlaftis and hopefully Tom Bahali, can also make that argument for Gelati.
Before you're out of here, your darling, your pre-camp OTA, who's a guy you're tabbing is like, all right, he needs to be talked about more. Who are you going to roll with?
I mean, is there a name who fits that category who we haven't already talked about today?
Well, maybe not today, but I think you could say I think Elijah Mitchell would fit in. I think Brashard Smith would fit in. I think that you could say Christian Fulton would fit in, who is probably who I'd go with. But if you can't use Christian Fulton because he's a veteran, I'll think a little bit longer on this.
I guess it would be a Minahu. Like I think that's kind of like that's the guy I've been pounding the table for. It's like Charles Minahu's better than he's gotten credit for, and I think he's going to show it this season. Christian Fulton, pretty good spot there too. I feel an obligation. It's if you say, well, my darling sweetheart is Taylor Swift. Like, well, that seems like you gotta go more niche, to say like who am I willing to defend at the front lines? You say this guy's not making the roster or not making an impact. I say that he is. And to be honest, I don't know that I have one jumping to mind right now because I feel like maybe just that we're so saturated in it. We talk about all these guys every day. Most people in the NFL world wouldn't know that Kingsley Suamataia is probably going to be an okay starting left guard this year after being an absolute disaster at left tackle.
Guess what? Rest of the NFL, get ready to learn Kingsley Suamataia, pal.
Get ready to learn Kingsley Suamataia's name again, sort of a second time, a little bit. We hope. But like I think Charles Minahu is the underrated player on this defense. I'm not necessarily picking. We all these rookies we talked about so much. I guess Brashard Smith would be my best one for the value in terms of like the take, which that I could see Brashard Smith being I'll do this. Brashard Smith or Elijah Mitchell are going to be enormous parts of this offense this year. I think training camp's about who's healthy and processing everything the best through that.
I think that's interesting because I think Elijah Mitchell's one of the more fascinating ones where if he's the starter, not surprised. If he's cut, probably not surprised. So I think this camp might be one, if you say pre-camp darling, just camp in general. That's a guy I want to look out for. I am intrigued by the cornerback room. Yeah, I said Christian Fulton, but I might even just keep it in there. I know he's guys we've seen before, but I'm intrigued to see what Watson looks like. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like post-injury again, another offseason. I'm intrigued. I'm somewhat intrigued about Nazeeh Johnson, which stop throwing things at me, guys. Stop.
You want one more half-hearted one? I got one half-hearted.
I'm serious with Nazeeh Johnson, though, real quick.
Sure.
I'm slightly serious about Nazeeh Johnson. The Chiefs have been so damn high on him for so long. I know he's sustained a lot of injuries, but they brought him back. And it's not an expensive deal, but it's not the cheapest deal. If they were ready to move on and thought he brought nothing to the table, they would have moved on, right? They just would have filled him with a rookie or just a generic guy. Maybe not even for the NFL.
You're the president of the Nazeeh Johnson fan club. I think that rules, man. Own it.
But for OTAs and training camp, I am intrigued. He's looked really good in the past, like really, really, really good. I'm slightly intrigued for OTAs and training camp. I'll leave it there. Again, I don't think he's playing over any of McDuffie or Fulton or Watson.
They did sign a starter onto a 2-year deal and then traded up and drafted a guy. I think the writing's on the wall there, but he might. I'll tell you what. I think it's probably more likely that he's on this team than Joshua Williams if you had to pick. So.
Oh, I would agree with that. Because special teams. No, Joshua Williams has really struggled in special teams.
Right, he's played a lot of special teams, but I know that because I can remember most of the times he was penalized on special teams.
So again, I'm not saying for games. I'm saying for OTAs and training camp. Who maybe an underrated guy that you could talk yourself into seeing be interesting. I could say Nazeeh Johnson.
Okay, I'll say Jared Wiley because he'll be far enough removed from the ACL that he should be working back in the full team activities and everything. It can take some time for that ACL to fully bounce back. I have my concerns there, but like I think the Chiefs have a lot of long-term tight end questions, and I would love for Jared Wiley to just like look healthy and to have a huge camp. I think that'd be great.
Or Brenning Stool, one of two.
We'll talk about him on Only Weird Games a little bit today. I'll make Seth explain to me if he's good or not.
In 45 minutes, you can check that out.
It'll be an hour,
But about an hour, you can check that out.
4:45.
Right now, Brisco and I are out. Appreciate you guys all hanging with us, taking your time. Hopefully everyone stayed safe. Hopefully your home's okay. Everyone you know is okay. A lot of scary situations going around KC and the metro area, especially heading out east. I know Raytown, it looked like even towards the stadium, it sounded like was getting hit pretty darn hard. Just stay safe for the rest of the night as well, because it sounds like some might be coming back. Appreciate you guys doing that. I know for us personally, we had sirens going off, so we didn't know if the show was going to happen, what was going on. So I apologize if early on there was a little bit of rambling. There was a lot of confusion, especially on my end. My wife trying to figure out where she's at. If she's
Did she
okay,
make it home, or
downtown.
is she on a curb right now?
She's on her way home. That's what that phone call was when you were speaking early on. If you were in the audio, you might not have paid attention to that. But yeah, I was on the phone for a little bit. She's on her way home, so she should be here shortly. So everyone stay safe. Not the best idea, but that's what happens when you do a Chiefs podcast June 3rd. Tornadoes might take precedence. Brisco.
The show must go on.
Show must go on. Appreciate Brisco, Richard behind the glass, all you guys for hanging out and listening, having fun with us. Until next time, we are out.